Hey guys, welcome. It is week 2 of the Reset program. I'm going to talk a bit about our gut health, also going to talk about a couple of nutrients. But I just wanted to firstly just touch base with you guys in regards to our habits and our behaviour around food. I think, look, when we look at those behaviours that we have, we start to really dissect and learn about ourselves. And I think when you do that, it's easier to come to terms in our own self-belief and about what we're doing and why we're doing it. Okay, the things that we want to do for our health, and I think that belief will then also make it a bit easier for those habits to start shifting. So there's a bit of a connection between your self-belief in yourself and your habits moving, all right? Because if you don't have that self-belief, I think it's very hard for the habits then to move. You'll always resort back to what was originally comfortable for you. So I think I've been thinking a little bit more about this in regards to habits. I think habits, initially, they're there because they make your life easier. So it's never the intention of having a bad habit. I think we create these habits because our life, it's made our life easier in some way. And maybe what's happened over the course of time that, they're not serving us anymore, or it's unfortunately created something else. So it's understanding that and having that and going back to having that belief in yourself that will naturally try and make those habits shift, because then you'll believe, if you really believe in what you're going to do or what you want to get to, then those habits will naturally start to shift as well. All right, but you do have to. I hope that does make sense, or at least something for you to start to think about a little bit further. All right, so let's go into our nutrients. So just wanted to talk about omega-3s. So omega-3s are an essential nutrient. Okay, they're a fat source, so they're part of our fatty acids as well. They come in the form of your animal omega-3, so you get them in salmon and in trout, and you also get them in a plant form, so through seeds. So I've spoken a lot about linseeds. They have an abundant amount of omega-3s, and also chia seeds have them, and some nuts as well. But the reason why I'm bringing this up today is because how we absorb the omega-3s is different between the two groups. All right, so I want you to think about that, because when we have it in the form of fish, we do absorb it a lot better, okay, than we do in seeds. So for example, linseed has got a lot of it, but we don't absorb all of it. And the reason why that happens is a chemical process, which we can go on forever and talk about, but I'm sure you guys probably don't want to bother with all of that, because it can take too long. But there is a chemical process in how we're absorbing it that is different, all right? But they are an essential nutrient, so it is important to get them. Not to say that we don't have them in seeds, so it's still important, and I'm still having I'm going to still have my linseeds, because we also get a lot of other nutrients. We get zinc from our seeds and nuts. We also get selenium, and there's an abundant other nutrients as well. So it's important, and it also that omega-3 still helps us, all right? But to have a think about that if you think you might not be having enough, all right? And I was actually reading a research article about omega-3s, and they were saying how in the Western diet we are deficient in omega-3s in general, and we don't. And when I think about my diet, sometimes I think, apart from my linseeds and my that I've done more recently in my life, I don't think I grew up with a lot of omega-3s, I don't think, to be honest. So I think it's important to add into our diet, and again, it's all about balancing with stuff as well. The other thing I want to talk about was iron. Now, I know most people probably know this, but I thought I'd bring it up anyway, is that iron absorption is absorbed a lot better when we have it with vitamin C. All right, so if if you have it in the plant form, so if you're having it through all your greens, vitamin C is in a lot of fruit and a lot of other vegetables as well, so you just have it together. Okay, so if you're thinking, I don't know, if you're having breakfast and you want to wilt some spinach with some egg, you can squirt some lemon on the spinach. Capsicum have got vitamin C's, kiwis, there's lots of citrusy fruits that have got vitamin C, so you can add you know, you can add that with your greens as well, which I think you can do pretty easy. Be creative. And also even with your meats you can add it too. All right, so I just wanted to add that also. And the other thing I want to talk about was our gut health. So if you remember the last couple of videos, I have spoken about having diversity in your food. So diversity also creates diversity in our gut health. Okay, so I think that's really important. So I hope that you have been introduced to some new foods. I actually went and bought a persimmon the other day. I've never ever eat it. My dad actually does. And when I brought it home, my son Roy actually thought it was a tomato and he didn't want a bar of it. Anyway, I cut it up and ate it. It didn't have a lot of flavour, I have to admit, but it was actually quite nice to eat. I still enjoyed it, had a nice texture to it. And my son Roy had a little bit, he said pretty much the same thing, but he was just kept expecting it to taste like tomato. So it goes to show how a lot of conditioning too with the fruit and vegetables that we've grown to love, but there's so much more too. So really open up your palate and give things a go. And that will improve your gut microbiome as well. The other thing that's going to help with your gut microbiome is resistant starch. So resistant starch is found in, it's found in a lot of carbohydrates, all right? But what I wanted to let you know is that, you know, starch is found in our pasta, our rice, and our potatoes, all right? And, you know, there's always a lot of talk about having those foods because of its high GI, okay? So when we have those, our glucose rises quite a lot. But when we eat potatoes, for example, if we cook potatoes and then we allow them to cool, that starch in the potatoes ends up being resistant starch. And a lot of it, like it's actually ×2. I think it's actually even more than that. There's a lot of resistant starch coming from cooled potatoes. The same applies to your rice and your pasta. All right, so when you cool rice, the resistant starch is abundant, okay? So what happens with resistant starch, it also resists digestion. So when we eat it, it resists digestion. It goes straight into your gut microbiome and creates good bacteria, okay? It plays a big role in creating short chain fatty acids, which are very, very good for our gut. So it's really important to have some resistant starch in our diet. So have a think about that. So even like, you know, think of potato salads, think of rice salads as well. But the other thing that I think will also help if you cool them and then cook them, or you know, you like for example, if you cook some rice, you let it cool. You got to put it straight in the fridge. You don't allow it to, you know, leave it at room temperature, straight into the fridge. Once it cools, then you add it to, say you've made a soup or you've done something else, you can add it back in. It will still have the resistant starch even though it heats up a little bit, all right? So that's still gonna work. Same thing with potatoes. So you can cool them and then heat them back up again and you will still get that resistant starch, all right? So, but the ultimate is, yeah, just having it as a potato salad or having them cold. The other thing that has resistant starch are green bananas. I was about to say green potatoes, definitely don't do that, but green bananas. So the more mature your bananas become, the less resistant starch, all right? So think about adding starchy foods that you can cool and then eat into your diet. Very, very beneficial and very good for that gut microbiome. I do want to make a point though, if you have irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, be mindful of how much resistant starch you are having, because if you've already got, you know, you've got issues there, you've got cramping, because the bacteria, because it creates bacteria, good bacteria, it creates a gas, that may be too much for you if your stomach's a bit sensitive. All right, so you're only going to know that by depending on how much you have. So just start off with a small amount and see how your body goes if you have that. If you don't, then yeah, it shouldn't be a problem. But again, take notice of how your body's responding to stuff like that. Yeah, so think of, yeah, diversity and adding some resistant starch into your diet in that way. Yeah, and that's pretty much about it. So good luck with the rest of the weekend. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments and I'll answer them for you. Enjoy your weekend, and I look forward to having a chat with you guys again next week. Thank you.